Another major issue that's been brought to the forefront is, of course, immigration. And we know that the region was built by immigrants. But I think what I want to focus on real quick right here, just to give a context, is what this matter that critics are calling a lockup quota or the bed mandate. Yeah. This was developed and passed in 2007 by the Department of Homeland Security under the chairmanship of a Democratic senator, West Virginia's Robert Byrd. And because of this, on average, every night in this country, 34,000 immigrants have to be locked up. The 2015 budget recommendations that our president has suggested has called to decrease this from 34,000 to 30,500. But we'll see, his 2014 budget proposal sought to lower the quota to 31,800, and this was not enabled. Congressional efforts to revoke the lockup quota have been unsuccessful, though alternatives to detention have received broad support from across ideological boundaries. And I'll just quote the National Immigrant Justice Center: "No other law enforcement agency is subjected to a statutory quota on the number of individuals to hold in detention." So these are unique circumstances. A third issue that pops up in organizing in a case like this is race. And I've already mentioned we've got Gary, a city that's approximately 90% African American, right next door. And if we look at the larger patterns in our prison system, we know that blacks and Latinos, who make up about 30% of the overall U.S. population, account for 60% of those incarcerated. And it's even worse in for-profit prisons. The profit motive, what we're seeing basically with for-profit prisons is they're going after younger Latinos and African Americans. You don't have to pay for their health coverage. You can exploit and make as much money as you can off of that. Already the glaring racial disparities in the prison system are more exaggerated in the for-profits. In fact, a study released in Berkeley studied 9 different states, and it showed in every single one of them there are more people of color locked up in for-profit prisons than what we see in the state systems. Even when we look in terms of the infrastructure, the pattern of racism remains clear. Where will all the waste from this facility, if it were to be built there, where would it go? It would go into Gary, Indiana. The pipes, the sewers were, I'm not going to say illegally, but hush-hush quietly extended from Gary's municipal boundaries into that parkland during the George Chicharis administration. And if anybody knows some Gary history, you know Uncle Cha-Cha went to jail for some shoddy building projects and payoffs to friends that resulted in some faulty architecture. So who's going to pay for the cost of upgrading not only the pipes, but the roads and the water systems and the electric systems? And I'm going to read a quote why this is of great concern to us. This is from, and if you could go to the next picture, please. That's Hobart Mayor Brian Snedeker holding a No Hobart Prison sign just about a week ago, 2 weeks ago perhaps. He released a statement, a fairly strong statement to GEO saying, look, you haven't fulfilled your obligations here. We don't think you're a good fit. But the second to last paragraph in this letter really caused a lot of us great concern, especially those of us living in Gary. I'll read from his letter, quote, "I am compelled to inform you that the Hobart City Administration cannot support the placement of the processing center in Hobart, and we request you seek some other site in the greater Chicago area better suited to your needs. It is plain to me other localities with vacant land, near an airport, and highway resources away from residential areas would be a better choice." That sounds a lot like Gary's West Side to those of us who know the local geography. Finally, there are the economic factors that kick up in any instance like this, and that's a wide range of economic factors, from the costs on local infrastructure like the roads. 49th and Liverpool, the streets that these buses would use to transport these folks are narrow with large gullies on either side, full of potholes. This is potentially a drag on local law enforcement and health services. And of course, there are the issues of property values. And kind of taking stock of what's all happened in the past 6 months, I think we kind of feel that what we have right now is kind of a hot potato NIMBYism, where it's, hey, those jobs would be great to have, just don't put the thing in my town. Well, whatever affects one community in the region is ultimately going to affect all of the communities in the region, particularly communities like East Chicago and Hammond that have sizable Latino populations. So to wrap up here, just a couple of things for y'all to keep in mind with these speakers. As we hear about the intersections of immigration and for-profit prisons, let us remember that everyone has a right to a quality standard of living, including and not limited to adequate housing, employment, education, and freedom of conscience. And towards this, everyone has the right to the freedom of movement within and through all political boundaries. As we hear about how the GEO Group's presence has impacted the community, let us remember that immigrants and migrants of all kinds built the region. And as we hear about the personal and emotional impact of this fight, I would like to read a short quote from Peter Kropotkin, who was a well-known Russian radical in the late 19th century and early 20th century. If you reason instead of repeat what is taught to you, if you analyze the law and strip off those cloudy fictions which it has been draped in order to conceal its real origin, which is the right of the stronger, and its substance, which has ever been the consecration of all the tyrannies handed down to mankind through its long and bloody history. Where you have comprehended this, your contempt for the law will be profound indeed. You will understand that to remain the servant of the written law is to place yourself every day in opposition to the law of conscience, and to make a bargain on the wrong side. And since this struggle cannot go on forever, you will either silence your conscience and become a scoundrel, or you will break with tradition and you will work with us for the utter destruction of all injustice, economic, social, and political. What can you do? Again, first of all, thank you for making this what you chose to do on a Monday night. We would encourage everyone to check out KnowHobartPrison.com, which is an online nexus for all the information and updates. Again, that is KnowHobartPrison.com. We would encourage you to jump onto Facebook and look up 219MIGHT, M-I-G-H-T. That's the Mass Incarceration and GEO Halt Team. We are a regional organization that will not be going away just because this has potentially been defeated in one of our communities. And then finally, we'll remind you that this coming Sunday, the 27th of April, we'll be having an event at the Hobart Arts League on the corner of 39th Street and Howard in the Northwest Hobart neighborhood, where we're going to have a number of regional bodies, and we will make this case for Northwest Indiana against GEO and these for-profit prisons. Thank you very much.